So to begin with, we are obviously here to talk about what has been going on in our community. And we're here to talk about a couple of things. The actual situation that happened just a block from here, right up outside of Imbibe, where of course Jackson Weller was murdered after a bar altercation late last week. Now, this situation, unfortunately, is one of many. It's a story we are telling all too often in our community. Last week, it was a student. The week before that, it was a postman. The week before that, it was a child. The week before that, it was several children. This kind of violence is affecting our city in increasingly dangerous ways. It's something that has been with us for almost a decade, and it's been slowly building. And unfortunately, it has been continuing to escalate. But this week, APD has been working extremely hard with everyone involved in the DA's office and the other agencies to first identify the suspect. And overnight, we were able to target and issue a warrant for the arrest on an open count of murder for the individual we believe was involved in that altercation. Lieutenant Scott Norris is going to go over the details of that warrant, and you're going to learn that this suspect was recently released from jail on his own recognizance for a felony firearms case in February. And in fact, some of you might remember we cited this exact case in our gun violence press conference almost a month ago. We referenced the same individual's activities in which he was openly firing out of a vehicle, including at police cars and our officers. Unfortunately, this individual was back on the street, and I want to say unequivocally, I believe that no one who shoots at police officers should ever be out on our streets. That's also why we're going to be joining forces with our district attorney, who's going to speak about this a little bit later. In terms of preventative detention reform, we simply cannot have this happen in our community. And it involves almost every aspect of the criminal justice system, and it's something that we cannot wait any longer to deal with. Now, for us, as I mentioned, this is just one example, and we can cite dozens and dozens of examples of the same situation. But while we can point to systematic and policy issues, we also need to know that we have to do more right on the street. And for us, that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We know that in our city there is a combination of drugs, gangs, guns, and domestic violence that is creating a violent mix that is increasingly deadly in our community. And to address this, we have to address each one of those pieces in that formula. There is no one quick fix, no one patrol that we can do that is going to change everything. This is going to have to be a sustained, long-term effort. It's going to take determination from all the agencies that are here today, and it's going to take resilience on the part of our community to make sure that we can actually do the kinds of changes that we are beginning to roll out. Now, pieces of this, of course, mean that 26 homicides last year 20 of them involved using a gun. When we talk about things like gun violence, it is also directly talking about dealing with violent crime. And I want to reiterate that because I know that in many situations when we're considering what's happening in a specific case, we've got to understand that we are now able to pinpoint how the same gun is used in different crimes, and that's how we actually catch the person who's doing it. There's also the notion of keeping guns off our streets, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit in a much better fashion. But I know this, we cannot let this become the normal. We cannot become numb to the fact that this is becoming all too common. And no matter who the victim is, we have to resolve to continue the fight. And make no mistake, this is going to be a long-term fight for our city. And it's going to take all of us together to deal with it. Now, fortunately, this warrant is out. Because of the fact that we're obviously trying to serve this warrant and execute on it, there are certain things that we're not going to be able to talk about later today because we don't want to jeopardize this search warrant. But the good news is we have identified the suspect, and that process is now ongoing. But there's another process that we have to consider here today. It's the process on how each one of us can play our role, our particular role, whether it's a supporting role or a leading role, to help violent crime not only throughout our city, but also right here in Nob Hill. I want to remind folks that the chief and I announced last year that violent crime is our top priority. We also put in a budget that council is currently working on that we hope to vote on soon that includes hiring 100 more officers, it includes our gun violence initiative, and it includes strategic efforts like the ones you're going to hear about in just a few minutes. And I want to acknowledge that this is also an urgent problem. I wish we could move faster. I think of that almost every day, every plan we come up with. The question for me is, how fast can we get it out on the streets? But these things do not happen overnight. But we know that we have set in motion many plans in all of our agencies that we believe are going to help. But I know that when we face frustration and anger, and that when we're even losing hope, because of things like a postman, a child, a student, I know that we have to have hope. We cannot give up, and we have to continue this fight, and it's something we're going to have to do for many, many months and years ahead. That is what it's going to take to deal with violence in our city. But it also takes cooperation. Cooperation like we have not seen to our knowledge in our city or the state historically. Cooperation that you're going to hear about today, where it doesn't matter what department, it doesn't matter what agency, it doesn't matter what elected official. We are all prioritizing the outcome of reducing gun violence, and we're doing it together. What you're going to hear about today is an example truly of this concept of one Albuquerque. We talk about that a lot. This is what it means. It means UNM coming together to help with joint patrols outside of campus in the Nob Hill area. It means us opening the doors to the UNM, to our Nob Hill substation for even UNM security. It means our state police announcing a new partnership lending 50 officers to APD, giving us much needed resources while we continue to hire on our own end. This is truly unprecedented, it's historic, and I also am very grateful to our governor, who is a true partner in fighting crime in Albuquerque. This also means that the Department of Public Safety is going to be working with our NIBINS program to connect gun violence intelligence efforts all across the state, not just in Albuquerque. It also means that with corrections and probation and parole in the U.S. Marshal's Office, we are redoubling our efforts to capture fugitives and get illegal guns out of the hands of convicted felons. It also means working with our regulations and licensing department and even our own city's fire marshal to make sure that we're doing everything we can with respect to over-serving individuals, alcohol, and also over the overcrowded situation that we have, whether it's in a bar or whether it's even out on the street after the bars get out. It also means working with our district attorney and actually opening up our investigative process to their embedded DAs who are going to help us side by side on actual investigative scenes. This is something that we've seen help in a lot of other cities, and it's something we're going to start doing right here. It also means working with our federal partners. We are asking for additional resources from the FBI, the DEA, and the ATF to help us with all of these issues and also to help prosecutions. Now, let me close with talking about what our department is doing at a high level. Our department is going to expand what we're doing in the Nob Hill area specifically. We're going to keep the substation open on weekend nights to correspond to bar hours. We're also, as I mentioned, going to be integrating our efforts with UNM. We can now do that because of the new radio system that the state legislature was able to fund and that our city council stepped up and gave funding for and support for on our side. We are also going to work with UNM on our gun violence initiative to make sure that we have an integrated approach. And we're also going to be doing a weekend bar patrol when the bars get out each weekend night. And that also is going to be part of our increasing bike patrol, which was announced by council last week during the day and also sometimes after hours, depending on special events, up and down all of Route 66, including Nob Hill. Now, we understand the urgency of this moment, and I also want to say, especially to the businesses and people in Nob Hill, we are not giving up on Nob Hill. No one is giving up in Nob Hill. In fact, we are increasing our efforts because we understand, especially because of the proximity to UNM, that Nob Hill is just as critical as any other part of our city, and especially because of those students that are here and the activities that go on here, we know it does require a special type of community policing. So to discuss a little bit more about these efforts, I'm going to hand it over to the president of UNM, who is here. You know, graduation is going on. This is a top priority for her, and I appreciate her personally taking the time to be here with UNM Chief Kevin McCabe to outline their efforts. President?
Good morning, everyone. As the mayor stated, Jackson Weller's death has shaken our entire community. The truth is, losing any member of the Lobo community is a devastating thing for us. But to have someone shot down the senselessness of the utter violence is heartbreaking, but obviously something we must deal with as a community. I'd like to thank the mayor, and also everyone who is here. It is clear that we are coming together to partner to deal with a very serious problem in society that is affecting us right here in Albuquerque. Obviously, the UNM campus has been a focus, but what we've known for quite some time is that the boundaries of our campus really go well beyond those actual perimeters, because our students, our staff, our faculty, they're right here in Albuquerque, and they are in these communities, living in housing nearby, visiting the establishments that are part of this corridor. So our community is where we live, where we learn, where we work, and where we visit. So having often been called a city within a city, UNM community is directly connected. We as a community are directly connected to everything that happens in Albuquerque. And so we face the challenges of being one Albuquerque. And this has been something I've recognized from the day I walked in the door. The issues of perceptions and the reality of safety has a tremendous effect on how successful we can be as a university. A distinct part of our mission at UNM is to advance the public interest, which includes working alongside our neighbors and partners. Communities thrive when they share a common goal and vision, encouraging mutual understanding, respect, and empathy. I look around and I know that together we have the capacity to solve this city's problems. We have the expertise to do so. We have the will to work together. And I look forward after this morning to seeing the ways in which we eventually tackle this very serious problem of violence, especially gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Okay, and now I went a little bit out of order, but let's get back to Scott Norris, our Lieutenant Scott Norris, to walk us through the warrant issues.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Scott Norris of the Albuquerque Police Department, and I oversee violent crimes. That includes the homicide team. As the mayor said, we do have an arrest warrant for this subject in this case. We normally would not publicize this warrant, but because we had to file this warrant within the court system, it did become public. So having said that, I do need to make a few comments about it. We have not said much publicly about this investigation, for the main fact that we don't want to compromise the integrity of the investigation or any information that we have leading us to a successful prosecution. Our goal is to get the offender identified, captured, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Having said that, I will not divulge any specific evidence that we do or that we do not have to ensure that we preserve the integrity I just mentioned. The offender is at large right now, and we are using every resource available to us to make that apprehension. I can assure you that my detectives, your detectives, have worked tirelessly on this case to try and identify this subject and establish enough probable cause to secure an arrest warrant. They do this with every violent crime, not just this violent crime. They are diligently following every lead, and we will get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. To talk further about this and some of these efforts, our Chief of Police, Mike Iyer. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Keller. Good morning. When we started the Downtown Public Safety District last year, we promised that we were going to expand our community policing to other parts of the city, and that's one of the reasons we're here now. Since then, we've hired 100 new officers. Our department is up to a strength of 957. Many of these officers are now hitting the streets, which would be a great opportunity to get more things like our problem response teams and bike officers in these areas. I'm encouraged about our path forward. As we start July, we're already on the track to get a class of over 50 students, or 50 cadets in the academy in August, and we'll plan to meet our goals of 100 officers by the end of the next budget year. As the mayor mentioned, we're making changes to the hours across the street at the Triangle Sub. They'll be open 6 days a week, and including open on Friday and Saturdays till 2 a.m., especially when the bars open or the bars close at that time. We're going to have 3 bike teams in the Nob Hill area specifically, including the problem response team that also uses bikes on occasion, and we'll have extra car and foot patrols as well on Friday and Saturdays when the bars close down. We've made a lot of progress in these areas, but the tragic death and murder of Jackson Weller is a reminder that we're not there yet. We've got to stay in this together for the long haul. We truly appreciate the partnerships that we've made and that we've announced today. This is a force multiplier for our department as we try to expand our own internal staffing, as well as increase and rebuild our specialty units. I do want to make an announcement today related to a gun violence initiative that we kicked off last month. A major part of that initiative, remember, was the focus on gang activity and the nexus with gang and narcotics and weapons. So I'm proud to announce that our gang suppression unit yesterday arrested an offender that we identified as the top driver of crime and violence in the city. That suspected gang member, Chris Saucedo, was involved in several shootings in the Southwest Area Command. We have been highlighting our NIBIN program, which tracks both casings to identify shootings by the same gun at different locations. The gang users use this NIBIN system as part of their investigation into Saucedo. We logged 36 different calls for service related to him since 2016, including 5 NIBIN-related hits near or at his residence. On Thursday, when our detectives arrested him, he had 2 handguns, one with an extended magazine, and 1 reported stolen AR rifle, along with 3 ounces of crack cocaine. Commander Miguel Garcia is here today, and he can answer any questions afterwards about that specific major arrest when we're all done today. So we look forward to more of these apprehensions as we together work aggressively to tackle violence crime in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, I'm going to introduce some individuals from our state government, and before I do that, I want to emphasize, of course, the governor convened a meeting of all the folks involved in law enforcement, more or less, in a lot of different fronts earlier this week, and this is the result of that meeting is a lot of the things that we're announcing today. She couldn't be here today, but her folks in relevant departments are, so they're going to speak to that. But I want to just highlight her leadership role and a partnership, I think, for a refreshing partnership between the mayor and the governor and all of the individuals involved in this that is truly groundbreaking. What you were going to hear today, we don't think the state has ever stepped up. A governor has never stepped up in such a big way to help Albuquerque deal with this issue. And so to hear about these initiatives, we're going to start with our state Deputy Chief of Police, Robert Thorn.
Good morning. I'm Deputy Chief Robert Thorn with the New Mexico State Police. Like the mayor said, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has called an order to action to fight crime, and that goes from the boots to the ground all the way up to the staff of the New Mexico State Police. We'll be partnering with all the state departments as far as getting in line with what we need to do as far as getting operations set to support the city of Albuquerque. She has called upon our leadership to collaborate all the crime prevention resources, target areas, and work smarter to keep New Mexicans safe. As of today, she has ordered 50 state police officers from around the state to come and to assist the New Mexico or assist Albuquerque Police Department and the capacity to ensure that we fight crime and make the communities of this communities around Albuquerque safe. I want to thank Chief Johnson and Governor Lujan Grisham for calling this to order as far as getting our officers in place to do what they need to do and support the city of Albuquerque. It is one of those situations when you have violent crime and you need to take action. We do what we need to do to support people and to support the communities that we serve. Chief Johnson has been instrumental as far as getting our department on board and getting the people in place to take the necessary means of calling officers here to ensure that we bring some justice to the citizens that are enforcing, that are dealing with these crimes and having issues with the crimes around New Mexico. Governor Lujan Grisham as well has been instrumental in this as well. Thank you.
Okay, and our Corrections Interim Secretary, Alicia Tafoya Lucero.
Our agency is proud to partner with this group. We are going to be sending out probation and parole officers as well as members of our fugitive apprehension team to participate in the initiative. Our priority is public safety, and that's both in our institutions as well as in our communities. And we are grateful that the governor has given us the opportunity to engage with our partners in law enforcement. Thank you.
And also we have our Secretary of Regulations and Licensing, Marguerite Salazar.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. My name is Marguerite Salazar, and I am the Superintendent of Regulation and Licensing. On behalf of Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, I am very proud to be here as a part of this endeavor. She feels strongly that we have to work together, that none of us can do this by ourselves. The role that RLD will play will be in liquor code enforcement. To that end, we will be working with the Albuquerque Police Department, visiting every establishment that offers liquor, whether it be the liquor stores or the restaurants and bars, to remind them of their commitment to follow the laws, to not overserve, to be diligent in checking IDs so that we're not serving to minors, and just making sure that they're following the rules. We feel that if we can do that, that may take a little bit of the stress off of what we're seeing out in the streets. And so to that end, we are very, very happy to be a part of this endeavor, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of the partners behind me. Thank you.
And next, our District Attorney, Raul Torres.
So, good morning, and I want to echo the sentiments of the mayor and start by saying that I share the concerns of everyone in the city of Albuquerque. We've had enough of gun violence. We've lived through too much, and we've lost too many lives in senseless acts that can't be tolerated. And so it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration and a willingness to think differently about how we attack that problem. But I want to thank the mayor for his leadership. I want to thank the governor for her leadership, and I especially want to applaud the Albuquerque Police Department. The arrest of Christopher Saucedo was a collaborative effort that was made possible in part by the new data-driven initiatives that are occurring inside the district attorney's office. Mr. Saucedo was identified as a primary target by our crime strategies unit, and we worked diligently over the last several weeks to assist law enforcement in highlighting the impact that he has on crime. And I want this to serve as an example that this is just the beginning of the kind of enforcement, the kind of smart, data-driven enforcement that you can expect from this initiative. I also want to take a moment to address the person who is now wanted in the shooting death of Jackson Weller. Obviously, this individual has a history inside the criminal justice system here in Bernalillo County. And the district attorney's office will be providing a comprehensive overview of his history. We can't, as the mayor and the chief alluded to, we can't get into the specific investigative details of the nature of the evidence that's going to be presented, I believe, in the case against him. But we can talk about his history inside of the criminal justice system. There was a pending case against this individual for shooting at someone in this community. Unfortunately, essential witnesses to that shooting did not appear for pretrial witness interviews. And because of that, the case could not move forward. Nevertheless, as the mayor highlighted, this individual picked up a new charge, shooting at or from a motor vehicle in February. Our office moved to detain this individual, and unfortunately, he was not detained, but released back into the community. And because of that, I think it's time for us to face the fact that the preventative detention system that we've been trying to work through in the last couple of years simply isn't working. This individual should not have been on the streets of Albuquerque. And next week, I intend to introduce a proposed package for legislative action that I will be asking the governor and the leadership in Santa Fe to take action on in the next session, because I think it's time for us to face up to the fact that preventative detention, as it's currently structured in this state simply isn't working and simply isn't protecting the people and the citizens of this community. With that, again, I'd like to applaud the leadership and the cooperative efforts of everyone here today, and we'll stand for questions after the press conference. Thank you.
Okay, so I think as you can see from what we've shared with you today and the individuals behind me, we are in this together. We are in this for the long run, and we are going to make progress to make our city safer. There's going to be bumps in the road. Even for all the initiatives we just mentioned, these are going to be works in progress. But we are not going to wait for anything to be perfect. We are going to start addressing these issues in each and every way that we outlined today. So with that, I want to appreciate also our governor's leadership. I want to mention that again. And also the folks at APD. I know sometimes they, there's often criticism lobbed at them for what they're not saying or what they're saying, and I want to mention that I, for one, am grateful to see this warrant, and I'm grateful for the work they do each and every day to do everything they can to keep us safe. So with that, we're going to adjourn.